You become CEO. You come up with this new digital blueprint. As a second priority, you're going to launch a new digital bank, which, let's be clear, was the first digital Islamic bank in Malaysia.
We want to be able to accelerate adoption of digital technology in the organization. And the best way to do it, in my mind, was that to have a separate outfit that will just focus on the next generation, doing things differently, the way how a digital bank would do it.
In today's episode, I'm joined by Muazzam Mohamed, the CEO of Malaysia's largest and oldest Islamic bank, Bank Islam. Muazzam shared with us his story as to how he introduced change and transformed an old institution and did the unthinkable, launching Malaysia's first digital Islamic bank. This is an amazing lesson for anyone who's interested in navigating bureaucracy and politics, as well as introducing partnerships into an organization, large or small, to implement real, meaningful change. As always, I'm your host, Areeb Siddiqui, and welcome to Muslim Money Talk. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the very first episode ever recorded of our new podcast at Kestrel, Muslim Money Talk. I'm very grateful to be joined by Muazzam Mohamed, who is the CEO of Bank Islam, close friend and advisor, and someone who was instrumental in our journey here at Kestrel. Muazzam, thank you for joining us today.
Okay, thank you, Areeb. It's my pleasure to be in a podcast, and especially knowing that it's the first for you. And I hope that the series is going to be something which is, popular, is going to be widely viewed by, and it's going to be beneficial.
We hope so. Inshallah. I'm sure they'll let us know if not. So, Muazzam, is it fair to say that you are something of an overachiever, looking at your career?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, the thing is that I'm a determined person. In a way, it takes time for me to decide what I want to do, because I'm the type of a person that whatever that I do, I want to make sure that I'm able to do my best. So I set a standard for myself of what I want to achieve. And, I work, I make sure that I'm very focused to be able to achieve that. But to say that I overachieve, I wouldn't say that, because in everything that I do, there's always the next milestone that I wish I would be able to achieve and all that. But Alhamdulillah, so far, I've been working for more than 26, 27 years. There has been a lot of experience through the journey. Of course, people would describe it as successes and failures. For me, probably there's certain things that I have set for myself to be able to achieve, but I didn't. When I was younger, I would take that as I wasn't able to achieve, and that's not a good thing. But, later on in my life, I realized that, everything happens for a reason. And sometimes what you thought was the thing that you wanted, and because you thought that that's the best thing for you, Allah knows better. That may not be the best thing for you, and you not achieving that, and you pivoting, you're doing something else or doing something differently, may give you what is the better thing for you. So in a way, that's my philosophy.
But if we were to go through your career on paper alone, or rather on LinkedIn, you graduated from IIUM.
Yes.
You then started on a graduate scheme at KPMG. You rose through the ranks quite quickly and made partner. You were there for some time, and then suddenly you made a jump over to the CFO of Bank Islam, the largest and the oldest Islamic bank in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And then pretty quickly, you found yourself in the CEO position as well. And it didn't just stop there. You decided you were going to digitize the entire operation and launch your own digital bank.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk me through that process? Like that, it seems like not just one, but almost two amazing careers that you've held, both in the accounting, consulting space, advisory, but also in the banking space. What was that like? How did you navigate that?
Others may view it as though it's something that probably, now I understand where you're coming from. If you look at it from that perspective, it seems that, I'm moving up, I'm achieving a lot of things, that kind of thing. The way I see it, a lot more of that thing is quite accidental in a way.
Really?
In a good way. Like I mentioned to you, I'm not very picky in terms of doing what I'm assigned to do. And whatever that's given as a responsibility for me to do, I try to do my best. So if I were to start in my career in KPMG, right, when I started in KPMG, I didn't plan to spend 18 years of my working life in KPMG, which I ended up doing actually.
Wow.
It was, the first 3 years because I wanted to do my chartered accountancy.
Yes.
You need to have a minimum of 3 years, for example, right? So that was the focus. Obviously, during that time, I needed to do my professional examination, and I was determined to complete it as soon as I can, and I did that, alhamdulillah. But what happened after that, I think, is more of me being in the right place at the right time to a certain extent, right? I mean, firstly is that, whatever that's assigned to me, I don't haggle, I just do my best. And different opportunities were given to me throughout my career. I mean, after the first 3 years, and I was given the opportunity to come and work in KPMG London for 2 years. So
you were in London?
Yeah, I was in London in 2000 to 2002.
Okay.
KPMG London, and that was the first time they moved to Canary Wharf.
Wow. Okay.
Basically, the office was previously in Bank.
Yes.
I was there only for 2 months. Then we relocated to One Canada Square.
Yeah.
In Canary Wharf, and there wasn't anything yet at the time, right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine during the time when there was that September 11, you know that we had to evacuate. We have to vacate the whole One Canada Square. Yeah, because when Twin Towers went down, I think the authorities in London was worried that if similar attack were to happen in London, the target would be one of the building would be there. And initially I didn't, I wasn't aware what's going on. We were told to say that we need to leave the building, right? So only after I got home, then I realized to say that, 2 towers went down in New York.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was 2000 to 2002. So I was given the opportunity, and I took it. I went back and was assigned, and obviously that 18 years that I was in KPMG was based on 16 of 3 years. So in a way, like I mentioned to you, Areeb, that I went up. Firstly is that because, the turnover was quite high, that back then.
Yeah.
So I had to, every time I had to step up to the next role, even when I was at a lower grade.
Because you mentioned you felt like a lot of these things were happening to you and you didn't plan it, right?
In a way, yeah. I mean, when I started in KPMG, I never said it to say, my goal to say that I want to become a partner in KPMG. But by doing my best in whatever that's assigned to me, I was moving from like first 3 years in audit in KL, then 2 years in London. I went back another 3 years in audit in Kuala Lumpur. Then I was made a partner, went to consulting. It was risk consulting, management consulting. I was doing the SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley advisory. I was doing IT advisory, technology advisory.
Sure.
And then, in my career in KPMG was 18 years. The only thing that I didn't do was tax, because I told the partners to say that don't ask me to do tax. Because,
so you did have some
because I can't, right?
Okay.
It's just not my thing.
Okay.
But everything else I did. So it came to a situation whereby I've got offers. Bank Islam came knocking on my door.
Sure. For the CFO position.
For the CFO position. Yeah. Actually, it was over a period of almost 2 years. Initially, I said, I'm happy with KPMG. I'm good in what I'm doing.
And this was in 2018?
That was 2014.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and 2013, 2014. But by December 2014, the then managing director of Bank Islam said that, hey, Muazzam, look, we need an answer from you. Otherwise, we need to just move on, right? So that's when I decided to say that, 18 years with KPMG, I was already a partner. That time, I was already 6 years as a partner.
Right.
And when I look at my horizon, there's a good another 15 years to go. So I was like, if I stayed on, it will be, as a partner, I'll be doing different projects, but the role will not be too different anymore. So I said, might as well just go for it. There's opportunity, right? So I joined Bank Islam in May 2015. By the way, I just completed 9 years with
Congratulations.
Bank Islam. Thank you. As a CFO.
Okay.
And that time was one because I look up to the then managing director of Bank Islam. So I said, he's someone I want to learn from. Okay. That's one. Secondly is that because Bank Islam was a good organization, that I felt there's a lot more potentials to do good stuff, and I want to be part of that journey.
So you like the brand, but you thought there's still a lot more I could do.
There's a lot more. Yeah, definitely. Sure. So when I came in as a CFO of Bank Islam in May 2015, obviously I wasn't pure banker. in my career in KPMG, I was doing financial services. Even back in year 2000, when I came to the UK, I was in the financial services audit, basically. So it's more of advisory capacity projects for banks, for asset management and whatnot. But, when I joined Bank Islam, I'm still considered not a banker. Even though banking is not alien to me, right? But what I brought in was a different perspective. Because initially when I came in to say that I cannot bring in anything more from the pure banker kind of perspective, right? Because there's a lot more experienced bankers in the organization. I said, I'm going to bring in what I have. And that is, my familiarity with business process re-engineering in terms of technology, in terms of looking at things differently, that kind of thing. So that was what I brought in as the CFO. But at that time, I was happy doing my role because being a CFO, you can make a lot of difference to the organization. And I was quite happy in terms of, the kind of things that I thought would be good for the organization.
Sure.
But 3 years in that role, then suddenly there's a vacancy. Again, this is something accidental. Because there's quite a number of recognition at a very, very senior level, even the top 3 position at Bank Islam at that time. So
CEO at the time.
The CEO left. The head of consumer banking, which is the biggest business for Bank Islam, left. And it was also an unfortunate incident that the head of business banking passed at that time. It happened all at the same time. And this was around June 2018.
Okay.
So they needed someone to steer the ship, or at least to stabilize the ship, because you can imagine when the top 3 senior position in any organization were to...
It was a crisis moment for the company.
It was crisis in a way. We didn't outwardly say it's a crisis, but internally it was really a crisis. So that's when the board asked me to step in as acting CEO.
Did you seek any guidance or advice from anyone before taking the position, or were you just immediately like, the amazing opportunity, let me go for it?
Okay, the situation is like this, right? When the board called me in to say that you're going to be the acting CEO, I said no. I said someone else can do it better than me, right? But it was in the same setting. Second time they put it, I said no again. But by the third time, I realized that, they're not going to accept anything other than yes from me, right? And then I realized to say that, probably I need to do it, because I don't think that they have plans for anybody else at that time. That was in my mind. So that's why I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll make sure that I stabilize the ship.
Sure.
But, you make up your own mind who you think is the best.
So
but
you came in as acting CEO?
Acting CEO. So that's why if you look at my CV, CFO, 4 months as acting CEO. But by the end of the second month, the third month, they've already told me to say that, Muazzam, we want you to be the CEO, and the rest is just the timing for the process to get clearance
that's
from
very
the regulator.
Different from when you came in. You're like, I'm just here to stabilize the ship. I'm not going to make any major changes. I'm not going to rock the boat, to push the boat analogy. But then you suddenly go from that to, okay, I'm going to digitize things. Here's my 4-year IT blueprint. Here's a new digital bank. Right? What precipitated all of those changes?
I mean, during the time that I was there, things were changing. Like digital banks are coming up and all that. So I realized that that's something that we needed to start doing. And obviously, of course, when the board gave me that responsibility, I said that, okay, we need to embark on this, because Bank Islam at that time was close to 40 years in terms of our existence, like 38 years, that kind of thing at that time. And I know there's a lot of achievements that we've had through the years, but at the same time, going into the future, there are things that we need to do differently, for example. I realized that. So that's where, we say that, okay, one thing that we need to be very good at, which is going to be vital for banking going forward, will be in terms of our ability to leverage on technology, to provide better services to our customers, to know our customers better, in terms of even expanding our reach, beyond our physical networks.
So in the startup world, we're always pushed to have the one metric that matters, right? So it could be annual recurring revenue or profits or, user engagement or activation. At a bank, does it work in a similar way where, of course, there's many, many metrics and success criteria that you have, but is there one overarching thing that yourself or the board cares about?
Okay, so this is slightly different in terms of our approach to it, because I understand, I mean, in terms of startup, it's always about story about the growth and all that. Whereas for us, we are a public listed bank, I mean, our analysts, our shareholders measure us based on certain set metrics. And this is impact ratio, cost income ratio, our net income margin and all that, right? So that is not going to go away. So our digitalization, we cannot forget that part. Even when we do, you cannot suddenly turn around and say that, oh, there are new set of metrics that you need to be looking at us, because they say, hey, look, we're not going to look at you like that, right? So that's why when we started it, the first thing that we wanted to do, why we did it that way, was because we want to be able to accelerate adoption of digital technology in the organization. And the best way to do it, in my mind, was that to have a separate outfit that will just focus on the next generation, doing things differently, the way how a digital bank would do it, right? Because if I were to do it within the context of big organization, it's going to be a lot longer for us to do it, because I need to be able to bring capabilities quickly. I need to be able to demonstrate successes quickly, instead of boiling the ocean and to get it done.
And this separate outfit, that's CDX.
That is why we set up CDX.
Okay, so CDX is the consumer digital experience.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And it's very interesting, because a lot of banks at the time, and certainly what I see in UAE and Saudi, they're bringing in a lot of external consultants, right? But you made the decision that you're going to build your own digital team.
Exactly.
Your own outfit that's going to be in charge of not just over at Bank Islam, the digitization process, but also launching a new bank under a new brand, BU, right? Why did you decide to build it internally as opposed to borrowing from outside, going for a consultancy?
In terms of priority, launching that digital brand comes number 2.
Really?
Number 1 is to build capabilities for the bank to be digital.
Okay.
So obviously, we had to do it that way. So that's why from day one, I said that we want to develop that capability internally. That must result in a new sub-brand. But the best way to be able to make sure that we've got that capability set up within CDX that can permeate throughout the organization, there is no other way to do it other than doing it internally. If I were to use consultants, looking back, right, probably we would be able to launch that brand earlier. I mean, we did launch it in July 2022, and we were the first in Malaysia anyway.
How was that?
But probably we could be able to launch it probably 6 months earlier, probably, because we were the first one to do digital core in Malaysia, and having regulatory approval also takes time, right?
For sure.
But probably, I'm just speculating, it could be 6 months earlier.
Okay.
But what does it do to developing internal capabilities to it? I mean, you hire consultants, by the time they go away, and a lot of time, and I was in consulting before, the team internally may not be able to take it up. But when we decided to do it ourselves internally, everything was all set up for us to do it. Now, it's not 100% internally, because we also use external capabilities such as Kestrl, for example, to develop our PFM.
Yes.
But what I mean by having it internally was that all the core team members, or what we deem as important functions for it, must be internal. And we can be augmented by, external bodies, or parties or fintech, that kind of thing. But doing things that we set, what needs to be done. Anyway, so that we can further develop and take it forward, right?
Yeah.
So it's never about 100% everything must be internally resourced, but we have the capabilities internally. So that is the focus that we want to do it. So that is as the first part. And then the second part would be all the learnings, the new capabilities that we have developed in CDX, in coming up with BU. That one is being push to the entire bank. So that's where, we launched BU in July 2022. Then later on, towards the end of, in middle of 2023, we did a reorganization. In fact, it's beginning of 2023. We did reorganization that we merged our bread and butter technology services and the digital team together under one umbrella, headed by Farila, because that is meant to transform the bank through this digital journey entirely.
Wow. Okay, so let's just recap that. So you become CEO. You come up with this new digital blueprint.
Yeah.
You launch your own internal core digital team, CDX, the Consumer Digital Experience Arm. You decide that you're going to use that team to upgrade across the banking facilities. As a second priority, you're going to launch a new digital bank, which, let's be clear, was the first digital Islamic bank in Malaysia.
Yes.
At that time,
Yeah.
right? But also, and that's where, we were very grateful to meet you. And you wanted to work with third-party fintechs and use them and their learnings and their innovation and integrate it to go faster and further together. We first met back in 2022, back in Oxford.
Yeah.
If you remember, we had a meal at that Turkish restaurant. And I remember you telling me your plans, and I thought, we had so many learnings from here in the UK building our own consumer app, the Muslim Money app, which had some PFM services, personal financial management, budgeting, auto saving, but with some Sharia services on top, like Sharia stock screening, zakat calculation. And it was a real interesting meeting of minds, because at that point, we had never considered, let's go and work with a bank. We had always come under the presumption that Kestrel was born as a response to how poor Islamic banking services were in the West. Here in the UK, we have some Islamic banking brands, but very, very few people were engaging with them because of poor user experience, poor customer service and digital services, higher fees, and ultimately a sense of, I can't trust these brands. So we were born as a response to that. And in our wildest dreams, we never imagined, and it seems obvious in hindsight, we should be working with those banks who have the brand, who have the capital, and what they lack is the technology where we can come in and do that for them. So, that was a big change for us at Kestrel, and obviously we're very, very grateful for that opportunity. So with BU, I wanted to ask then, you now have two brands, the BU brand and Bank Islam Go.
Yes.
So it's interesting because you see other banks doing two brands over in Emirates and UAE, even here in the UK. How do you get away from one brand cannibalizing the other, and people using BU instead of Bank Islam Go or vice versa?
I mean, to me, it doesn't matter because it's part of the same group.
Sure.
But if I were to sort of give a distinction between the two, is that BU is fully digital. It's aimed at specific segment, and these are the youth and those under the gig or earning in the gig economy. So we are very focused in terms of creating the proposition for that particular segment. Bank Islam, through the 40 years of our existence, we've got other segments. And the thing is that when we set up BU, we wanted to focus on the segments that we are not strong at, because these are the new sort of segments that were coming up and all that. At Bank Islam, at the core, even our retail, we are a lot more focused on the salaried employees with full-time employment, stable income, that kind of thing, right? So that is from segmentation perspective. So that's why, no doubt that there would be cannibalization, and to be honest, it doesn't really matter. But the way how we set it up, we make sure that BU will help to complement Bank Islam in terms of going into the segment that we are not strong at, or we're not having a clear proposition yet. So BU is gonna.
So BU is almost like the innovation arm.
Correct.
For what everything you're doing.
And then Go, like you mentioned just now, that is just another digital channel for Bank Islam, the bigger segment that we have, for example. It will continue to coexist because the proposition, what we are going to put over there, would be differentiated, but it is up to our customer. And I can imagine, for example, a customer that started with BU, when they move on and in terms of their financial services needs are becoming more complex, they can continue to use Bank Islam, but using through our other channels. We've got physical channels, digital channels, Go and internet banking and all that. And that can be done very seamlessly from our perspective. But coming back to your point on that is, why do we, partner with Kestrel and all that? I think we see alignment in terms of purpose. See, at Bank Islam, our purpose is very clear: to advance prosperity for all. And that means that, we want to be able to provide services and be relevant to all segments of the society, including the underserved. Now, in the context of Malaysia, when we talk about underserved, it's not about bank access to bank accounts, deposit accounts, because almost everybody has got a deposit account in Malaysia. But the exclusion or the inclusion that we want to bring would be in terms of to the credit in terms of product. Because not all customers are able to get credit products from banks in Malaysia, right?
Yeah.
You need to have income of above certain level and whatnot. And if you do not hold like full-time employment, stable jobs and all that, it's very difficult to get. And the unfortunate thing is that when we look back 5 years ago, all these people in the informal sector, they needed to turn to money lenders and all that. And in terms of the cost of borrowing for them can be very, very
these are
expensive.
Unregulated money lenders.
They could be licensed,
Okay.
but for as long as they are not regulated, because in Malaysia there are two segments. You can be a licensed money lender but not regulated under Bank Negara. So that one has got slightly different rule. Those regulated under Bank Negara is a lot tighter in terms of the market conduct and whatnot, right?
Of course.
So we said that we wanted to do that. So that's the reason why, part of the reason why we started BU as well. So we want to give financial inclusion, and BU was set up to give financial literacy. So obviously when the purpose is very clear about building that financial literacy and elevating the income of the people in that segment, so naturally we'll be looking at how do we enable them to cultivate the habit of saving, provide investment opportunities for them to know how to manage their finances and all that. And that's why this PFM comes in, because that's very important. At the same time, we also want to be able to help to build their credit score for them, because when they do transactions with us, when we see them putting certain amount of their money into savings and all that, then we are better able to sort of create credit score for the different customers and all that. So that will be the journey that we want to be able to bring. And because we are also serving the gig marketplace, so the gig people earning in the gig economy, that's why we tie up with gig marketplaces. For them to be able to find jobs.
So that's really interesting, because now you're moving into the embedded banking type space, where it's taking banking services and taking them to areas where they're historically not there. So BU will evolve into becoming a place where you could not only access banking services and get credit scores, but also you could find new jobs to do as a gig economy worker.
Yeah, currently we have already worked with 3 gig marketplaces. We've got QWorks, we got Fusion Sparks, we got Artists, and obviously we want to be able to embed more on our philosophy is that to enable our customers to be able to access different job opportunities. In the pipeline, we also want to be able to help them to improve their skills and knowledge, because we believe that our customers, if they are better skilled or more knowledgeable, they have the ability to earn more. So we will be partnering with, for example, training providers and all that, where if you're a technician and there's certain certification that you can do, that once you get that certification, you're able to earn a bit more. And we say that, okay, we'll finance you to be able to do it so that you can elevate your income, right? So that's the thing. We also know that, for example, people in gig employment, income is not stable. It's even more important for them to be able to manage their finances and all that. That's why we have this PFM, so that they know how to do budgeting and whatnot, because people like us, we are finance people, that can be something quite intuitive for us, but not everybody will know that, right? And the other thing, from perspective of protection, people who work in like big companies and all that, they've got all their insurance and all that covered for them. But people in the gig economy, they need to be able, that's why we have micro takaful, for example. So we'll continue to build on that. Currently, BU itself, we're rolling out products under MVP. We've got deposit products. We are going to have second deposit products. We're coming up with our term deposits. Micro takaful is already there. This year, inshallah, we're going to come up with our microfinancing, our term deposit.
Fantastic.
And obviously, there's a lot more things that we will put in to make sure that we're able to serve that segment better.
Thanks for listening to Muslim Money Talk. If you like what you've heard so far, you might be interested in what we're doing over at Kestrel. Kestrel is a software service that helps banks and wealth managers to better serve their Muslim customers. Maybe it's launching your own digital app, providing it with personalized features for your customers, from budgeting and auto saving, product recommendation, to faith-based features like auto zakat calculation or Sharia stock and fund screening. We have it all here at Kestrel. So join us on our mission of helping Muslims to grow their wealth without having to compromise. It's so interesting because I absolutely see the overlaps between our missions, because what you're trying to do to help the underserved and what we're trying to do here, which is, Muslims as a minority here in the UK are absolutely underserved with poor Islamic banking solutions. But beyond that, the financial literacy problem is so acute in our communities, where it's not just a problem of financial literacy, but also Islamic financial literacy. So I wanted to show you, interestingly, we've upgraded our Muslim Money app in the UK. So it goes beyond just PFM, but we have some investments and fixed return products there right now. We have these things called the eggs, which are the savings parts, but we have this feature called the AI Mufti, where you can talk to it and ask it questions about Islamic finance, like, hey, are Apple shares Sharia compliant or not?
What's zakat and
calculate my zakat for me. It can do that, but also it will do things like, hey, just create a budget for me, or help me save for an emergency fund, and it will start doing all of that, create the budget seamlessly. And the idea is it will evolve not just from you texting it, you can talk to it and do it in that way, but it's all ideas that, even though people understand that financial literacy is important, what we found is that it is very boring for people. They don't like to set up the budget and go through their insights and see, I'm spending this much here on coffee and all that. So we're finding different ways to make it more of a positive experience. And, like we have this, we do this, you do this at BU as well, like the Spotify rap type feature, which is like stories about how you've spent in the last quarter or at the end of the year, that kind of thing. So, I think things like that are making financial literacy a bit more fun.
Exactly. It's almost like have your own personal advisor or someone you can talk to when it comes to finances, right?
A financial assistant, someone that you can talk to about this stuff.
Exactly.
I think that's what's missing. Okay, fantastic. So we've talked a lot about BU and Bank Islam and the moves there. What advice would you give to a CEO in your position who wants to make all of these changes and make an impact with their brand or the bank that they're at the helm at, but they're struggling to navigate the bureaucracy and the politics that often come with making these changes and getting the board on your side? Are there any tips that you could give?
I mean, from my experience, at the end of the day, my son cliche is stakeholder management, because at the end of the day, my role as a CEO is similar to like a football manager. Anyway, I'm not able to score the goals myself. Right? I need other people to help me to score the goals. I mean, for the team to win. So in a way, how do I make sure that everybody is on board? Not just the board members, but the senior management, even the employees and all that. Obviously, in my own mind as a CEO, in your own mind, you must be very clear in terms of where you're heading. What is that destination that you want to bring the organization to, and being able to articulate what are the steps to get there. And so that probably is the harder challenge, because even as a CEO, you're a person, you have self-doubts as well as you go along, but that one must be crystal clear, and you need to be determined that is the direction you want to go and get everybody on board. Communication, obviously, do not underestimate the amount of communication that needs to be done. It's not just one, it needs to be continuous, because for the things that we set the destination, you've got your mini milestones, and sometimes you may not meet all the mini milestones, and people do not underestimate the amount of doubts that are out there. I mean, so you need to be able to convince to say that, hey, look, I mean, there is this bigger price that we are after. There's some setbacks here. Let's make some changes and all that, but we need to continue to be on this journey. And that kind of communication, you need to tailor it, because it's not one for all, but it's something that you need to work on. The shareholders, directors, senior management, the colleagues, the employees down the line.
Yeah.
So to me, I think clear direction, The other one would be in terms of communication.
It resonates a lot with advice that one of our good friends and advisors, James Bagshaw at Kestrel, often says, which is if you're going to hold a board meeting and you want to, make some news or ask for a decision, go to each and every person separately, well beforehand, and get them on board, so that when it comes to the board meeting, it's almost a formality.
Yeah.
Right. What you're presenting, and everyone just says, yes, we're in agreement, and then move on, instead of it descending into a debate.
But probably in stakeholder management, that there is this one thing also that some people tend to forget, or when you get to certain position, you tend to forget. You cannot just bulldoze things. You need to listen, you need to hear, because everybody will have their own worries and concerns and priorities. So that's why that one-to-one engagement or smaller group engagements is for me as a CEO, or for anybody who wants to be a CEO, to understand what are the concerns of the different individuals or different group, because you need to be seen as addressing them, right? So that's very important. In winning or in getting buy-in, because if the people that you talk to see that it's just a one-way communication, it's just about me giving that path and all that, and not willing to hear what their concerns, what their worries, chances are they're just gonna say like, yeah, okay, let's just go with it or whatever it is, and not fully committed to it. But if they see that, yeah, okay, I mean, you hear my concern, but even if me as a CEO, I cannot accommodate exactly like that. But I tell you what, probably there's some of these things that we could, I'm not saying that we must accommodate everything, but it is very important for us to understand each group's concerns and worries and all that, and being able to demonstrate that I'm doing something to address that. And for you to be along with me on this journey will be better for you, rather than not being on board, right?
You want to make people feel heard. There's a lot of EQ, right? Emotional intelligence that you need to demonstrate.
That's very important. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So that's how you'd be managing the board and the stakeholders. You mentioned before that the first thing you wanted to do was to get clarity in your own mind, to get rid of your own self-doubts. How do you do that, right? Do you often face self-doubts, or, wondering, is this the right path I should be going down? How do you end up getting around that? And does your faith ever come into play with that?
I mean, for me, I always ask the question, why do I decide to do this in the first place?
Yeah.
What is this organizational purpose? What are we supposed to achieve? What are we supposed to deliver? In a way, you need to always go back to that. Whenever I encounter any setback, that kind of thing. So that is one. Secondly is that you need to continue to engage, because sometimes other people can give that kind of insight, feedback and all that. Always have a good close inner circle that you can trust, and you can have a good conversation about those things. So having mentor figure, it would be good as well. But you shouldn't have one as well, because it is very important for anybody who wants to be a CEO. You need to be your own person. You can consult, but ultimately you need to make that decision, and that decision is yours, and you need to be accountable for it, right? So therefore, in making that decision, you cannot be just asking one person alone, because that might become that person's decision, right? So that's why you need to have a few who can be like a mentor figure to you, for you to bounce ideas and get genuine feedback.
Yeah.
And they're not saying it just because you're the boss. If you say A, then, or if I'm guessing that you would like to hear A, I will say A, that kind of thing. So try to avoid that situation.
Okay. So you don't want just yes men or yes women.
Exactly.
You want people who will give you genuine feedback and advice. And
because for me, that is the strength of a team.
Yeah.
Because if everything is going to be up to me, then I don't need to have that senior management team. I will be the one-man senior management team, right? So when we talk about having a team, it means that not giving the team members the chance to hear. I look at it as giving myself the chance to hear good feedback and input from the others. Should turn it the other way around, because sometimes I wouldn't say that it should happen to anybody, but there are situations that happen to someone when you are at a certain position. you think that you know everything.
Yeah.
And only your view matters, right? It's not necessary. I mean, if you are in that situation, it's very unfortunate. It means that you're really limiting yourself, the ability to see the wider picture, to hear different views, to look at things from different perspectives. And that is, for me, is the thing that I consciously make sure that I don't get trapped into. That's why, for example, like Areeb, I mean, it's quite common for me when I have my senior management team, I will let the others speak first because I want to hear their views, because I know that, when there is one matter that we want to discuss, if I were the first one to give my view on it, chances are some of the others, if not all, will just echo what I say, because they may think that, oh, that's what he wants to do, might as well just play along,
just
right?
agree with you.
Yeah. So I let the rest to speak first because I want to hear their views. Then from there, probably initially when I started off, I could have view A, but when I hear the others, I say, oh, but this A can evolve into A plus or even become B, for example. So it is important for me or for us as CEOs to give ourselves the opportunity to hear other perspectives, and that's important.
It's something I struggled with for a long time. I think there was like an innate perfectionism or insecurity where I just felt that whatever it was, whether it was a presentation to a client or pitching to an investor, I had to shoulder the majority of the work, because at the end of the day, the buck stopped with me. And it just led to burnout very, very quickly. I was questioning myself. I was tired. I was exhausted. I wasn't like a nice person to be around. My wife can attest to that, right? So I think it's very, very sage advice. But on that same vein, do you find it easy to separate your family life from the business life? When you go home, is it difficult for you to switch off? Because I think a lot of busy executives in corporates and entrepreneurs, certainly, they really struggle to draw that line between their two lives.
I do struggle. I've got to admit that, because we're not robots. It's not easy for you to just switch on and switch off, right? I mean, if it is in your mind somewhere over there, it will just come up. But you need to consciously tell yourself to say that, and I need to be able to separate it. Doesn't mean that you are able to do it, but once you consciously say that, then you will be able to manage it better in a way. I'm very fortunate to have a very stable family life. I have a very supportive wife.
Sure.
And the thing is that, unfortunately for me, a lot of decisions when it comes to the kids and the family, my wife shoulder it, and I give her the space, the empowerment to be able to do that. Not to say that I'm not involved, but she almost like she will do all this background risk assessment and analysis and all that, and come to me to say that, okay,
to get sign off,
probably we should do it 1, 2, 3. Then I go to and I'll listen to her. I said, yeah, okay, I'm okay with that, right? For example, that's how we work.
That's beautiful.
So it is very important for me personally, and I find it very important, and I'm grateful to have a stable life at home, that when I'm at work, I can really focus on work. And that's very important. When I get home, and I consciously tell myself not to bring some of this home. It's just that sometimes there are certain things that worries you and all that. And our spouse and my wife, especially after being married for more than 25 years, she can tell. So she would say, okay, this is, he needs to deal with it and all that. Find time to be able to deal with the things that you need to deal with, even if you cannot finish it at work. I mean, you have certain zone time during when you're at home just to deal with that. And other than that, you just deal with matters at home, like especially when you have like young family.
Yeah, of
it's
course.
very important. The other thing is that you must be able to balance. Don't put things off for your family. Like I always told myself to say that at the end of the day, my priority is my family. And some of the work that I do and all that is also to be able to provide for the family. So if it is detrimental to the life of the family or even any of my family members is just not worth it, for example. So I mean, that kind of prioritization and that kind of reminding myself is important, so that we're able to deal with it. And as Muslims, actually, we also have got other outlets to, I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, being a CEO, ultimately you're accountable, but we cannot control all outcomes. So as Muslims, we need to understand that. And for me, especially later in my life, as I get more mature, definitely not when I was a lot younger, I mean, I take it that the only thing that I can control is my input, is my action. Obviously, in doing that, I need to consult, I need to get views, for example, right? But I cannot control the outcome. I mean, you could be doing your best, your 101% and whatnot. You may not get to your outcome. And when I do not get, or when I perceive that I do not get the outcome that I wanted, then I just accept to say that probably I wish to get A, but instead I got B. I need to believe that because Allah knows that B is far better for me.
For sure.
My own limitation is not knowing at that time that B is better, but I just accept. And later on in life, quite a number of times that I've gone through is that when you reflect back, and I thought, oh, I'm glad that I didn't get A, instead I got B, because actually it makes me to be who I am today. That kind of thing. And I'm comfortable with that. So I think having that kind of acceptance helped as well.
Alhamdulillah, I'm hugely grateful. I think being a Muslim, part of our faith, it can be a huge stress relief, right? Because then you only need to worry about the things in your control.
Yes.
The whole thing, like trust in Allah, but tie your camel before doing that. I never really understood the meaning of that until I started my own business.
Yeah.
And I realized how little things are actually in my control as a human being, let alone as a business owner.
Yeah.
Right. So that I think it was a real wake up call for me. I wanted to, we're getting to the end of our time together. I wanted to ask, you went through a very sort of corporate career, rising up through the ranks at KPMG. Once upon a time, I thought I would do that at Deloitte, and then very quickly realized it wasn't for me. And then, mashallah, made it as CFO and then CEO of the largest and the oldest Islamic bank in Malaysia. If you were to do it all over again, would you change anything about it?
No, at this point in time. I believe that whatever that has happened to me, that has been planned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, obviously, at the point of making a decision to do it or how to do it and all that, I wouldn't know that was destined. But, whatever that I have gone through, I accept that has been destined, and I'm grateful for the journey, because at the end of the day, it's through that journey, through that experience that make me to be who I am today. Obviously, who I am today, am I the best form of me? Certainly not. I can always improve as a person, but as part of the journey to be even a better person, those experience valuable to me. So I wouldn't say there'll be anything specifically that would change, because probably it's also that element of acceptance to say that has been my journey.
Yeah.
I accept it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. But there are things that I did that didn't work out, but I didn't stop. I do it differently, and and it gives different outcome, for example. And all those things add up to become part of your knowledge, part of your experience, part of the journey for me specifically to become a better person. Inshallah.
Amazing. Well, Muazzam, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to, inshallah, welcoming you back when we're dozens of episodes into the future, hundreds of episodes into the future, and then maybe we can see what's next in line for Bank Islam and BU. Before we close out, is there anything else you'd like to say? Any advice you have for young people thinking of going down the corporate path or even starting their own thing? Any last piece of advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, specifically at the end of the day, we need to do the best of whatever that comes our way. At the end of the day, what happens to you is not within your control, but how you respond to it, that matters, for example, right? So that's firstly. Secondly is that for anybody who wants to go the path of, having own business, you need to make sure that you are equipped with necessary skills and knowledge for you to be able to succeed and to be able to to be the best in that. For example, not everything that you are passionate about can turn into a successful business. So this is where we need to differentiate between passion and also having successful business, because it doesn't automatically turn into it. Now, I'm not saying that you should be doing something that you are not passionate about, but what I'm saying is that you must also, at the end of the day, if you want to run a business, you must know how to run the business first, right? Because in there can be different types of businesses. If you want to open up a restaurant, for example, being a good chef alone will not ensure your success if you don't know how to look at cash flows and whatnot. So you need to look at the broader aspects of the business and make sure that you've got enough skills and experience. And that could be, could mean that you need to have certain amount of apprenticeship, for example, for you to acquire the relevant knowledge and experience for that kind of business that you want to set up or you want to own. So that would be my advice, I say.
Something you said sparked a memory within me of a concept, ikigai, right? The Japanese concept. And then, a friend of mine, Iqbal Naseem, who set up National Zakat Foundation here and does huge things for the community, he upgraded it to say Muslim ikigai, which is not just finding something that you're good at, you enjoy, that makes you money, that does good for the world, but also something that does good for the ummah as well as like the final piece. And I'd echo that sentiment that yes, you can be passionate about something and you may just want to jump in head first. But from my own experience as an entrepreneur, I know that doors that were open to me would never have been able to had I not worked in big four firms like Deloitte and at PwC, had I not learned just basic business communication and etiquette, and also just having the brand names on the CV or on the resume. There's a certain signal that is sent off to people, rightly or wrongly, that this is someone who maybe I could trust more as, if it's an investor looking at you or a potential client, whoever it may be. So would absolutely echo that sentiment. Muazzam, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much once again. And inshallah, we'll see you very soon.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you for listening to the Muslim Money Talk podcast. If you like what you heard, then please subscribe to Muslim Money Talk wherever you might have been listening to this. Give us a like and share it with someone who you think might be interested. It really, really helps us out. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, and see you next time.